Hello, welcome to the WAQ Show. I'm your host, TJ.
And I'm Matt. I'm sorry, Dan.
I'm Dan. No, I think I fucked that one up, maybe. Wait, no. I'm normally second, right?
No, Dan, you're last.
Yeah, I fucked that one up.
It's all right. It's all going in now.
Yep, doing it live. All right.
So that's who we are, TJ, Matt, and Dan. And we have a debate today, whether or not.
Yes. I mean, you call it a debate. I call it fact. All right, y'all.
Go ahead, take.
PowerPoint is better than Word in almost every case, like every use of the software. I would rather use PowerPoint than Word in almost every instance of having the choice to use either one. There is but one moment where I could see I would prefer to use Word. And that is our argument today for image editing, for even just writing papers, etc. PowerPoint is superior to Word.
Why?
What?
Why? Because PowerPoint's just easier to use. It's more user-friendly. It has more functionality. It gives you a blank canvas. It is closer. This is how I'll explain it. It is closer to having a physical blank white sheet of paper in front of you to write something on than Word is. Because in reality, with a physical blank white sheet of paper, or even one with lines on it, for example, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it. If you want to write in diagonals, you can write in diagonals extremely easily in reality. Word fights you tooth and fucking nail if you want to do something weird like that. Whereas PowerPoint, you just click the text box, rotate, move it to the corner, boom, you're fucking done. Word is like, no, you gotta draw a text box and then it's gonna shift all your other fucking shit to the sides and, oh, look, we made a second page. Ha 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 ha. Like, it's just fucking dumb. It's like, oh, no, this is for one thing and one thing only. Whereas PowerPoint's like, hey, you want to fucking draw squiggles in between the lines of your text? Go for it, dude. Make it happen. It's just closer to having a real piece of paper in front of you. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
And I might be jumping the gun here, but you describing that makes me think of how much easier it is to import or like to place photos in PowerPoint around Word.
On PowerPoint than Word. Exactly. That was gonna be one of my other points, is if you want to add images, add charts, graphs, whatever. If you want to embed shit, PowerPoint is better. Word is like, you can't make an interactive document with Word. With like, the best you can do is you can, I guess, embed videos in a Word document and people can play the video. Whereas PowerPoint, you can be like, hey, if you know the next section of lesson XYZ, you can fucking click this button and totally skip that bullshit and go to the next one. Like, you can bounce around the thing. You can have stuff change other stuff on the slides. Like, it's more interactable. It's easier to use. It's easier to import. It's just better. Like, and the simplest way to put it is it's closer to building a document IRL than Word is.
Okay. So I've got two things. One, my immediate sarcastic gut reaction is, well, geez, it's almost like Word's trying to make you look like a professional or some shit. How about that? But then all right, Matt, well, you can't just interrupt Dan in the middle of his fucking spiel, because you would hate that if it happened to you, even though you do that all the time, because you're a
monster.
Because you're a monster.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I am.
So you have to sit on it and think about it. Why don't we take notes in PowerPoint? You know, we've all gone through college, I think. You go through college, you watch your professor roll through his PowerPoint, you turn his PowerPoint into your Word document or your notes on a page, and then everybody at the end of the quarter is clamoring for like a cheat sheet presentation summary type deal, when you could just copy his PowerPoint realistically if you got sufficiently good with PowerPoint.
Exactly.
So I'm like, why does nobody do that? And I think the issue here is less so people thinking Word is better than PowerPoint, and more so people thinking that PowerPoint can only be used to make presentations.
Yeah, I think that's the big problem.
Whereas they're both tools, and we're kind of just stuck in this idea that you take notes in Word because it is shaped like a piece of paper, when you're completely right. You can do more things like you can do on a piece of paper in PowerPoint because it starts with text boxes.
And I think part of that is Microsoft pushing Word over PowerPoint. Like, Word's kind of
that's another point
of their software programs.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as notes go, like, PowerPoint is fantastic, and I would use Microsoft OneNote before I used Word to take notes, for the same argument that it is just fucking easier to do shit in. Like, I don't know where down the line Microsoft's like, hey, we have all these great new ideas to advance word processing and media building, shit like that. Instead of integrating it into one piece of software, let's just make a whole new piece of software, and we'll have Word for word processing, and then PowerPoint for literally all of our other best ideas.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where that separation occurred.
We'll have Word for word processing and PowerPoint for also word processing, just better, but we won't tell anybody that that's actually the case.
I guess here's my question too then. When you do like not notes, because that would still be fine the way it's set up, but like, so Word is set up to be an 8.5 by 11 sheet. Can you make slides that big?
Yeah, you can make slides whatever
I never
dimension
knew
you
that.
want them to be.
I thought slides were just that generic, whatever that dimension.
That is yet another reason why PowerPoint is better than Word. Word, I think you can manipulate the size of the page. It's a little bit clunky. Whereas PowerPoint, you click a button, you put in the dimensions or select one of the preset dimensions, and boom, you're fucking done. No arguments, no frustration with like, well, the margins are going to stretch based on, exponential blah, 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 blah. Nope. Just make the slide this big. Boom, I'm fucking done. Like,
now here's my other question, because this is kind of a big one for me. Can't think of what it's called, the thing that helps fix errors, like spell check and all that stuff. Does that work equivalently to how Word?
Absolutely. It's literally the same like code. I'm pretty sure. Like, I mean, I didn't write the software. I'm not qualified to talk about it perfectly, but like, it is the same. It is Microsoft's spell check code that will run and do it. Like, your PowerPoint will get spell checked through all text values exactly the same way Word would.
Interesting.
So the one singular instance where I can see Word being easier or more convenient to use than PowerPoint is when you're writing a paper, like a research paper or something, that has a very specific formatting. Word is very, very easy to format, like margin size and, text breaks and hanging indentations and stuff. It's not impossible to do in PowerPoint, but that is the one thing that is a lot easier in Word than PowerPoint, is to make sure the paper is formatted and formatted the same throughout specifically.
Yeah.
Otherwise, PowerPoint blows it out of the fucking water. Like, come on.
So basically, like I said, it's almost like PowerPoint was made for professional papers. But if you're not doing professional papers, which is a lot of what people do with Word, i.e. not doing professional papers.
You said PowerPoint, but I know you meant Word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that. It's a lot easier to set up a default format for Word, and then every time you open Word, it always starts you with that default format kind of thing. So if you're constantly writing the same kinds of papers over and over again, like a research professor or a grad student or something like that, I could see an argument be made for using Word for that kind of stuff. But if you're a creative type like, TJ here, or you're, willing to put in the extra work to make sure you have the preset on PowerPoint like I am to do stuff like that, then everything else is just going to make your life so much
Yeah,
easier
I'm gonna have to
So
try PowerPoint
if you
more
do it
now.
in PowerPoint.
okay, so 2 questions. One,
Uh-huh.
do you just write all of your papers on PowerPoint and then put them in Word to make sure they work and print them that way, or I know you don't write
think-
papers much anymore, but
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. When I was in college, I would, because I constantly had to do APA format, I would use Word. But when I was in the Army, I would actually do most of my writing and most of my report making in PowerPoint, yes. And then if they had a specific thing they wanted, then I would, copy the content over to a Word document. A lot of times what I would do is I would write the paper in PowerPoint, move it around, and I copy the content to a Word doc or a Notepad file. Then I would move the paper's content around, add the images, the maps, the graphics and stuff to the PowerPoint. And then I would submit to whoever I was delivering it a PowerPoint presentation, a PDF and a Word document, and a PDF copy of both, basically. That way they had just the text content if they were on like limited bandwidth line and they couldn't, pull up the maps and stuff like that because, middle of the desert using a satellite connection for internet, it's going to be really slow. But if they had the support for it, then they would use the PowerPoint or the PDF file and it would have all of the content.
I like that.
But yes, professionally, I have written papers in PowerPoint before, and it is super convenient because a lot of times, depending on, and again, it depends on what kind of industry you're working in or business you have. But a lot of times it's super helpful to be able to just slap in, like I said, a graph or a chart or an image. And we all know how much easier that is to do in PowerPoint than Word. I don't think I need to argue that point.
yeah, no.
I also like when businesses send you multiple, like how you did that with just words or with pictures and stuff like that. So thinking ahead of need for like a client and giving them everything, which Dan knows I like to do.
Yeah. So here's a probably slightly more arguable point from your guys' perspective, Matt having some Photoshop experience and TJ having a lot of image editing experience. I would sooner use PowerPoint for like simple image editing and creation than some of these crazy advanced like image editing softwares like GIMP and shit.
Yeah.
Like
No.
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Hold
See,
on.
this is a much more debatable portion of this argument. So
Yeah.
go for it.
Like the previously, you just told me a bunch of shit I didn't know, and I was like, oh shit, well, I don't think you're lying, so that's great.
Well, that's kind of you.
I guess.
I mean, because like the only thing I could do to doubt you is to be like, I don't think you're right, or I don't think you're telling the truth, and I don't think that, so.
You calling me a liar? I'm just kidding.
So yeah, no, it's interesting to think about all this shit you do with PowerPoint. I don't. This is another thing we're gonna get to. Is I actually use the Google Suite as opposed to the
So do I.
Microsoft Suite. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
I use Google Suite too.
But I mean, the main things I use Photoshop to do are color correction / changing and removing backgrounds from images. Can you actually do that shit in PowerPoint? Because I doubt it.
You actually can. However, it is not as robust or clean as those other softwares. I will give you that much. But I will also remind you, I did put the caveat of simple image editing. So, like,
I mean,
if you're... Mhm.
I would consider removing a background pretty simple, like just erasing something.
Yeah, so what I mean by simple in the instance of removing a background, for just so I can kind of like get the situation in everyone's mind, is like let's say we're making a token for an online tabletop game, basically just cutting an image out. If it is a like flat white background and the image is, of something that is not, pure white, i.e. the hex code white or whatever, then PowerPoint would actually work just fine for that. You just go to remove the background, you select the image, you click the white, and it will remove all the white. And it will actually do it relatively just fine for those means.
Now, will it not remove the white also in the image?
Correct. It will
Okay.
not. And if it does, you can actually identify specific areas for it to keep or remove as well. So you can actually narrow it down a bit. The reason I'm talking about very simple ones where it's, remove the entire white background, boom, done, is because when you start getting into like minutia of areas, so like, for example, I was working with an image where there were like lines, and the space in between the lines was supposed to be transparent, but the lines themselves weren't. It will start to artifact the color if you're trying to do it in too tight of a space, like there's not enough pixel buffer between the two lines. So it's a very imprecise method, but if all you're trying to do is bulk transparent some kind of content, then it works just fine.
Okay, because most of what I do is manipulating the image size and the size of the eraser down to 1 pixel, erasing.
Yeah.
And that's how I cut images out as cleanly as I do. I'm not saying my work is professional, but I'm saying I think I do it better than most of us. I will put more time into it.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good, but that is definitely something I would call not simple. Like you're putting the effort in. That's a lot more work than me talking about, clicking a section and making that whole section gone kind of thing.
It's fair.
My turn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, TJ,
right.
Go for it.
So, as a photographer, it's interesting because a lot of photographers, we want every picture to be perfect and like always be the best it can be. And it took me a while to get to the point where I'm at now, where I'm like, it depends on what it's for and how much money you're making off of it. Kind of like, I still want it to be the best it can be always with everything, but you have to understand, not you guys, but like everyone, I have to understand that what I see, some people probably will never see. So is it worth the time to edit that if it's a time sensitive thing? So like in the sense of simple, like when you say simple to me, that's light changes, like no, not just like simple light changes, like if you need to up the exposure a little bit or darken it, or simple cropping.
Yeah.
Or like if PowerPoint can easily get rid of a background like that, that's definitely simple. Go ahead. I rarely use Photoshop unless it's an extensive thing that I have to do, or if it's minimal photos I'm working with. A lot of times I'm working with, so like a wedding, I'm dealing with 100. Well, usually I'm dealing with like 1,000, and then I break it down to 100, and now I'm dealing with hundreds. And that's where Lightroom comes in handy, because what Lightroom does is, say you have a series of photos, and they're in the same place, so like a reception. So it's the same lighting for all of them. You can batch edit, so then it copies all the edits that you made to the one photo and puts it over all of them. And then you could do minute changes to each one, and it goes really fast. So if you're doing bulk stuff, then Lightroom is what's good. If you're doing like single images, then Photoshop's better. But you can still do stuff that you would do in Photoshop in Lightroom. And then for me, I would rather get it right in camera and do minimal editing.
Yeah, I feel like everything you kind of described there was definitely considered complex. So in my brain, when I think of a complex image, the moment the background becomes more complex than just kind of like generally static tones, maybe a gradient, that is beyond the capabilities or the scope of the simple editing that I'm talking about. So like, and literally any real world photograph with any semblance of proper lighting or anything like that probably immediately falls out of that category, because very rarely do you have just one flat static perfect, same hexacode color background, unless you have a shit ton of great lighting and you're doing like a white background photo shoot for that purpose.
That makes sense. So like a headshot would be, or illustrations and vector art, stuff like that would probably be really good in PowerPoint. I was trying to support you.
Yeah,
what I was saying, like, so it's just
no, yeah, for sure.
And it's not what level of professionalism you want, because you can get great quality, I'm sure, with PowerPoint versus Lightroom. It just,
I mean, I'm not gonna sing its praises that much.
I mean, like, if it's something really simple like you're talking about, then they'll.
Yeah,
it's that minute thing where people probably won't notice, and that's a really hard thing to get over, because I've given people some great stuff and they're like, that's cool, like it's better than that.
Yeah, they don't know the work that was put in. Yeah,
other stuff where it's like kind of crappy, and I give it to them, they're like, this is amazing. Like, it's okay. So it's people's perspective of what it is, and a lot of times it's whatever the thing is. It's not even like all the things that go into it, which is a really generic way of describing it, I know. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Matt?
I was gonna say, I think it's completely reasonable to say that you have a really good hammer and not expect it to be a drill. Like, PowerPoint is a really good tool for what it does, apparently, for what it can do. But if you're gonna be like, well, PowerPoint can't take out my incredibly complex background and change the guy's skin color and edit in some glasses. Well, yeah, but a fucking hammer can't drill a screw into a not, what I mean? A not already screwed piece of wood. Like, yeah, cool. You're talking about a different tool.
I don't think it could drill a screw into a piece of wood with pre-holes.
I mean,
like
as long as you don't have a very stringent definition of screw.
Fair.
I think you could smash a screw into a piece of wood and be like, oh, it's a screw, so it was screwed.
Fair. That's fair. Oh, someone somewhere is cringing at that concept, I'm sure.
All right, so if we're done with that, I think me and TJ would like to attack you on the Google Suite versus Microsoft Suite.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
Debate.
Let me just get my shield up in one way. I love that the Google Suite of word processing shit is free, because I fucking hate that Microsoft's word processing suite, Microsoft 365 now, is a fucking subscription. Holy shit, that pisses me the fuck off. So you're already got a point in your court. Like, I will still use it no matter my gripes or complaints, because it is more accessible and I don't have to pay a monthly fucking fee instead of just paying once to have access to software, which falls into the Adobe argument, which we haven't got into yet.
I can't wait for that.
That's for another one.
Yeah. No,
but I'm pitching the ball in your court to start with I will use it kind of thing.
Yeah. No, thank you for making our first argument.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Google Suite is free. I was curious if you've used Google Sheets, which is their PowerPoint.
I thought it was Slides. Sheets is Excel.
Slides. Google Slides is their PowerPoint. Sheets is Excel.
Oh, okay. Hold on. If we're gonna start talking about Google, I think I need to turn off my phone. Or just because my phone, like, if you say "Hey Siri," an iPhone will activate. If you say "Okay Google," my phone will activate. So I just pushed it under a bunch of pillows and shit.
Oh. Yeah, Slides is. I've never used Slides, so I don't know how equivalent it is. Like,
I have.
Is it pretty up there with PowerPoint, or is it still lacking a lot?
I will let Matt do the first bit here.
Okay.
I don't have any experience with Slides.
Really?
I use Docs and Sheets a lot. I don't use slides.
So Docs actually works fine. I have almost no problem with Docs. The problems I have with Docs are unanimous problems with all of Google's word processing stuff. So Docs is fine. The problem I have with all of their shit is it's like when you go to the store and you look at the cereal and you see, oh, Honey Nut Cheerios. And then to the right, you see Honey Circles. It's like the Google word processing is the Honey Circles of word processing. It's like, it's almost there. It's almost there. They just don't have the one like bit of the recipe that makes it the thing. They're all missing just something. And sometimes you can't even put your finger on what that something is. It like just misbehaves in a certain way or is missing a certain feature or something like that. That's one of my issues with it is it's like it's almost as good kind of thing.
Here's somewhat of a non sequitur, but let me toss this in here because I learned this a couple years ago and it has saved me so many times. For the listeners out there, did you know that if you go to print anything, you just like go, I don't care if you don't have a printer, just go to print something in most programs and then click the drop down to select your printer. Almost always you can save the PDF through that. Easy PDF conversion. I don't know why I just thought of that. But that's my favorite feature of Google Docs. And it's a feature of most things.
All right.
Yes, that's good knowledge. Good knowledge. I think I like Docs better than Word. I like.
Agreed. I think Word is too chunky.
Yeah, I could see that.
I like Excel better than
also, yes, holy shit, yes. Sheets does not have a complete fucking formula library. Holy shit. Oh, it's so irritating. If you're trying to do advanced stuff, Google Sheets is not the way to go. Excel blows it out of the park if you're trying to do like really advanced cell calculation, chart design shit. IMO, at least.
I've never done anything more complex than a loot sheet, so
yeah, like it. And Google's one thing I will say in favor of all of the Google stuff is holy shit, the collaboration integration is fucking brilliant. Like you cannot work together as well on any other word processing stuff compared to Google's stuff. It is great for shit like that. Easy to share, easy to see what edits other people have done. It catalogs every change. I had a thing in college where somebody fucked up and deleted like a bunch of content from people's slides. And I was just able to, a couple clicks of a button, boom, reverted it back to its state where it was good. Yeah. So Google word processing stuff does have some great stuff.
Oh, also the fact that, I don't have my laptop today. Let me hop on your laptop, log into my fucking email. Boom. Here's everything I've ever made in Google, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's more of an argument of like cloud storage stuff, but it's definitely tied to Google services. But TJ, you had asked me about slides compared to PowerPoint. Let's see, what kind of comparison can I make to encapsulate this properly?
Let me just open slides right now.
Perfect. Okay, I'll make a gaming comparison this time. So you remember with like the Xbox 360 how it came with like a headset for online use? And it was one of the most dog shit pieces of hardware ever. Like it was crappy mic quality. It didn't feel comfortable on your head, etc. Right? And then imagine like some super comfortable like Turtle Beaches, or if you're a Razer fanboy, a Razer headset, like your favorite headset you've ever had. It's just comfortable. The mic is crisp. You can hear every single tonality shift in your favorite songs. High quality headphones. It like syncs up with your PC just right. PowerPoint is the good headset. Google Slides is the shitty fucking Xbox
So they have a lot of
360.
improvements to make. Okay.
It's like, yeah, it does the job, smiley face.
So what
like, that's my emotions toward
I
Google
feel like then
Slides.
Slides is what people perceive PowerPoint to be who don't use it.
Which
You know what I mean?
awful.
Like how we were saying how people
Yeah.
would use Word over PowerPoint because they don't know. Like I didn't know PowerPoint could do all that. So they just made Slides how people perceived it. But
Yeah.
that's interesting.
The other thing about the actual Microsoft ones is you can design and program custom plugins, which is beyond me, but you can find some cool shit online that further expands on what you can do in PowerPoint.
Yeah. Which is cool. My biggest thing though is I'm not paying for it. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of that.
Because
Yeah, I mean that's a
Because
huge argument.
there's a
And
free
honestly-
version that does everything I need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, it'd be a hell of a lot less of an argument if the alternative wasn't a subscription.
And you get
Definitely.
the drive with it. All you gotta do is make a Gmail account. Have access to it.
All you have to do is sell all of your information to Google.
Now, here's my biggest beef with Google is that sometimes their stuff doesn't work in Google. You know, like in Google Chrome. Like Chrome is the worst web browser for Google.
It's not the
I
worst web browser.
No,
Let's
No,
hard
okay,
disagree
now
with
that
that
fucking
one.
stop there. It might not be the best, but it's not the worst.
I don't know. Have you used it in all of them? Like,
Have you used Microsoft Edge?
it's new now. Whatever the new one is.
I don't care how new it is.
No, I haven't, but I bet
Yeah.
Drive works in it. I bet you can download and upload and Drive in Edge.
Drive works
Drive
just
works
fine
just
for me.
Not
fine.
always.
Yep.
I've had a lot of issues with people being able to download files from Drive. I've had issues downloading and uploading files from Drive in Chrome.
The only issues I've ever had with Drive and Chrome is it takes a little while for all like everybody's cached version of the drive to sync. That's the closest thing to a problem I've ever had with driving.
Matt.
Yeah, no, the closest, me not seeing the files that you are certain you've put in a folder is the only issue I've ever had with Drive.
I've had a lot of, I've given some clients some stuff and then they're like, I can't download it. And I had to tell them, do it in a different web browser, and they did it. It worked fine.
You know, this is total sidebar, but the number of times that's the solution is
Yeah.
too fucking high. Like, what? That is getting up there with turn it off and then on again. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Makes no sense, man.
I literally have
Also,
Firefox
like-
just for when Chrome isn't working. I'm like, oh, I'll try it and that. Oh, it worked. Okay. And then eventually it works in Chrome again. Just have to update or something.
I totally agree that is essentially the same solution. But somebody being like, "Oh, turn it off, turn it off and turn it on again." Fine. I'm like, "All right, sure, I'll try that." Somebody telling me to try it in a different browser infuriates me. It makes me unrationally angry.
It makes me mad when people do suggest either of those things, specifically because the line of text that runs through my brain every time that happens is, "You fucking think I didn't try that already?"
Yeah, no, honestly,
The problem is loads of people don't before
Yeah.
they contact support.
I'm highly guilty of always being willing to tell people to do stuff they've probably already done, just because I've seen it happen enough where I didn't say the easy solution, they didn't try it, and I could have solved them hours of misery if I were just willing to possibly be an asshole.
Yeah, well, the other thing I'll caveat with this one, and this is a I'm qualified warning right now, is it depends on how they phrase it. If they say, "Well, turn it off and then on again," that's what pisses me off. If they go, "Well, have you tried
Yep.
turning it off and back on?" They're asking me a question instead of directing me to do a solution I've already tried. Then I can just say, "Oh yeah, I've done that," and it saves like an argument of, "I've already done that." Well, are you sure you fully shut it down? Blah blah blah. Motherfucker.
Yeah, no, it took me a while to learn that, but I will always phrase it like, "Oh, have you seen?" Like, if it's something obvious, like, "Have you seen this? Have you tried that? You know, are you familiar with this?"
Yeah.
And if I think it's obvious enough, and they say, "Yes, I've done that," or "I've seen that," or "I know that," I will just let it go. And then if it happens to not have been the case later, I'll be like, "Well, shouldn't have been so
Shouldn't
sure."
have fucking lied to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing about phrasing is that. So anyway, sorry for the sidebar, but I don't know if we have too much more to talk about with PowerPoint being superior to Word.
No.
I mean, fuck, apparently it is.
Yeah.
Now, I will say as well, though, to the degree that I'm describing using PowerPoint, it requires a certain degree of technological literacy as well as experience with the software. Word is a lot easier to just open and go if you don't know how to set things up or manipulate things in PowerPoint. So I will give it that much.
I am inclined to disagree. I think both are easy enough to open up and start typing in. But you would know better because you've done both. But I don't find doing a new thing in Word to be terribly easy. And I don't know how much more difficult doing a new thing in PowerPoint would be.
It comes down to what the new thing you're doing is, and I would also make the argument that the three of us in this chat are, even for our generation, on the high end of technologically literate. Like, we're all pretty savvy. If we want to sit down and figure out how a piece of software works, we can fucking do that.
Yeah.
Like, we're all pretty damn good with tech. So I don't know if we have the best unbiased thing, but I do kind of agree with, like, it depends on what you're opening it up to do. Because if you're opening it up to write a paper, you literally open Word and start typing. For PowerPoint, you have to, like, if it's supposed to be an 8.5 by 11 paper, there is some different formatting you have to set up first, and you need to know where to go to do that and how to put the dimensions in and stuff. There's just a couple extra steps. It's not a lot harder, especially if you're just doing the baseline stuff, but I think it is a little bit more difficult than slapping open Word and doing the one thing Word is designed to do. It's the case of I have one job and I do that one job well versus I can do many things if you know how to use me, kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with us being so that we're of the higher technical side, so it's hard to judge that.
Yeah.
But even if we don't know something, we can understand Googling it and figuring it out real quick.
Now, as a brief callback to one of our earlier episodes where we bitched about software from the same company or products from the same company not working in tandem with each other, on the inverse side of that, Microsoft stuff actually works really well between each other. Like, you can copy and paste from any Microsoft piece to another Microsoft piece, and it'll, like, save the formatting and give you options for pasting. Like, that's fucking awesome. More shit needs to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a quick side note, because, you know, we were talking about that episode before we started. Yeah, that's my arguments for PowerPoint being the best piece of Microsoft Suite word
now
processing.
it's up to you, the listener, to choose PowerPoint or Word or Google or Microsoft.
But not fucking Adobe. Holy shit.
Well,
that's for next time.
I mean, does the Adobe Suites fucking subscription cost more or less than Office 365?
More. Way more. You have to pay for each piece of the suite with them as well.
I will say, what's it called? Is it called Inline? Insight?
I think Insight sounds
Adobe
familiar.
has like a program that you're supposed to use to make like magazines and books.
InDesign.
That's the best program I have ever fucking
InDesign.
used to format a fucking Word document.
Yeah,
Holy
InDesign's
shit.
I love InDesign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will admit, their software they make, in some cases, is worth the fucking price tag.
Yeah.
but it's still a fucking subscription.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, this would be another like hour and a half of bitching. I don't know if we want to do that in the same episode.
There'll be some praise in it too, though. It won't be straight up.
I certainly have some praise for Adobe.
I have both. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. PowerPoint, Word, Google, Microsoft. All good things. Does Google own Microsoft, by the way? No, right?
No.
God. That would be horrifying if those two were the same company.
Anyway.
Oh yeah. If you two ever want to see what I'm talking about with some of the PowerPoint stuff I'm describing, let me know. I'll be happy to provide examples. But anyway, we should close the episode out.
Any final thoughts from you?
Okay.
PowerPoint's the best. Woo!
Really didn't expect. I didn't expect Dan to just like lay it out, and I you know what I mean?
He sold me on it.
Yeah, he just was like, "Here's what PowerPoint can do. Did you know?" And I was like, "No, didn't know that. Holy fuck!" I'm not going to use either anytime soon because I'm a Google boy and I like free shit. But you know, in the same way that I see somebody using Word and I'm like, "Now, why aren't you using Docs?" I will now just be like, "Now, why aren't you using PowerPoint? If you've already bought into the Microsoft suite,
yeah, might as well, right?
PowerPoint's better."
Yep.
Yeah. Now, one last thought, since we didn't really touch on it. If you need to do something in Excel, do not try to do it. That is the one area PowerPoint cannot match. You can put it like a little chart or a spreadsheet in PowerPoint, but Excel is honestly, Excel's the most powerful piece of the suite.
I think Excel is the best at what Excel does over any other.
You would say Excel excels at its.
Yeah, but for real, like I don't think there's any other software yet that rivals Excel for what Excel does. Like they've mastered that.
Here's a question: can you copy like a chunk of cells and put them in PowerPoint as like formatted as cells in a little grid and everything?
Yes, you actually can. I don't know if some of the more advanced formula stuff from Excel will translate properly, though. That's the hang up. But if you just have like content in cells, you can copy and paste sections of an Excel sheet into a PowerPoint. Absolutely.
So there you go. That
Microsoft Suite, not sponsored.
That brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I'm your host, DJ.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dan.
And that's the WAQ Show. Bye.
Bye.